Welcome to Wines and Wonders with Kirsten Fox. True stories with a side of wine. Looking for inspiration for your life and your wine glass? This is your podcast. Here's Kirsten.
Hello again. Welcome back to Wines and Wonders. This is Kirsten Fox, and as you may know and you might be following, I've got Dannielle Bryan of Shamanic Twist in the studio with me, and we have been talking about time and all sorts of different aspects of time lately. And today we're going to have I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation about a study that was done, or I guess an experiment that was done a while ago. And you may have heard of it, but anyway, welcome, Dannielle.
Thank you, Kirsten. Great to be here.
We're back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna read this about this study to you. I'll kind of give you an overview of it, and you may have heard of this with the phrase Ho'oponopono, and it is a way of it's a process of a 4-part process of doing this prayer type of chanting or prayer type of thoughts towards someone else or yourself. And we're going to go more into that. So you get the tools after this to use this if you think it's effective. But there's a very famous doctor, Dr. Hew Len, who did
He just did the practice.
He was just doing it.
He was just doing it. It wasn't even a study.
That wasn't a study. You're right. Okay.
He was just, this is what Hew Len practices. And as a doctor, found himself in this situation, which I know you're going to set this up, but he found himself there being the doctor. And he did what he does. And this was the result of Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian healing term. And it actually means to make the situation right, to right a situation, to bring order back to a situation. So the rough translation of Ho'oponopono is to make right again, or to bring order back to the situation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you in normal words, and then Dannielle can translate much better into what really is happening. Okay, so what he would do is he's a psychologist, and he was at a hospital in Hawaii, and it was a state hospital, and he was put into a department, or he volunteered to go into the department, apparently. Maybe.
No, I don't think he volunteered. I think they asked
him to come in.
Because they couldn't keep anybody in this position.
It did talk about the fact that they could not keep staff. Now, this was a wing of the hospital that was for the criminally insane.
Correct.
And they basically said that staff would call in sick a lot or quit. People started walking with their backs kind of towards the walls of the halls because they were worried about being attacked. And they couldn't keep staff. So this guy was brought in, Dr. Hew Len. And basically what he decided to do, because this is his practice, and you can tell us more about this, is he actually he didn't know any of these inmates. He did not know anyone. He had never met them. And he went into an office and he would study an inmate's chart, their folder. And then, and this is just so weird to me, he would look within himself to see how he was a part of creating this person's illness.
Where it lived within him also.
Where it lived within him.
Mm-hmm.
So then what he did, so I'll tell you what, okay, I'm sorry, I'm already going off on what, but so basically he started to heal patients just by healing where he found that criminal intent or whatever in himself. He would work on his own criminal intent, and the person in the file that he was reading would start to heal. And basically, There were people that were shackled they didn't need to be shackled anymore. They could walk
Right.
around. Some of the people got off their medications stopped being used because they didn't need them anymore.
Right.
And basically, people that were going to be in this wing forevermore for the criminally insane walked free, perfectly healthy, and the wing was closed eventually.
Yes.
All right, so having a hard time here.
This is such a good one for us, Kirsten.
I even looked on Snopes
Yeah.
to see if I could find a thumbs up or a thumbs down on whether this is a true story, and I couldn't find it on Snopes. So the fact that I couldn't find it on Snopes is really interesting to me because I've heard of this from many different places. I've heard of this guy doing this, and so it's kind of like, I would think, part of I looked up urban legends,
Right.
and so anyway, I'm sitting here with someone who can explain this because I also feel like, I will say, here's this gentleman who has nothing to do with these criminals, nothing to do with what they did, absolutely nothing. And I get being responsible for myself and maybe even my children if I'm raising them, and I'm not necessarily responsible for all their behavior, but I'm responsible to try to teach them about society and these kinds of things. How does, some guy who, let's just say there was a murderer in there and he killed someone and he was insane. Okay. How am I? So here we go.
Right.
Bring it, Dannielle.
Okay. Right.
What do you have to say about
You
this?
just lobbed this one right into my lap here.
Yes.
Okay. So the concept, so Dr. Hew Len had become a student of the healing practice of Ho'oponopono, which has been around a lot longer than Hew Len. He's not the founder of this. So he studied with a woman who studied with a master, Okay, so this is, Ho'oponopono is an old time healing practice, modality, if you will, that is traditional to the Polynesian cultures.
Okay. So he didn't come up with this.
He did
All
not
right.
come
All right.
up
Got
with
it.
But he became a student of it because it was so remarkable that it worked when he found it and began to use it and to see how effective it was. He became a devout, student / follower / practitioner of this modality, Ho'oponopono. So, and he's a psychologist, as we know, Dr. Hew Len. So here's this hospital, and the premise behind it, Kirsten, is this: that from the concept of oneness, which we have maybe heard this in our spiritual teachings and many of the mystical teachings of ancient traditions, that there's the concept of oneness, that we all come from one. We all come from one big God source. So
what hurts me hurts you, like
correct.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
I can get my head around that.
Okay, so that you and I are two individuals sitting here in your studio, but we're one energetically, spiritually, because we all come from this one source. Okay, so I have to preface that this is the larger concept here that we're talking about.
Great.
Okay? So we all come down to the earth plane and we're individuals, but at the end of the day, we all come from this big ocean of source.
Okay.
And we're all drops of the ocean running around the planet.
Okay.
Okay. So here we are. So the concept is that from the place of oneness, if I see something outside of myself, it is a reflection of that which also exists within me, holographically speaking. So a hologram
Oh, I was at the Michael Jackson show in Vegas. I've seen holograms.
Okay.
They're really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So multidimensionally speaking, we're in if our listeners have been following, then they've heard me talk about we are multidimensional energetic beings. We have a physical body, we have our subtle energetic mental emotional body, soul body, energetic matrix. We're walking around, we're these energetic beings. So the concept is that within our energetic beingness, that we hold a understanding or a memory or the possibility of all things that exist.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, Hew Len, Ho'oponopono, criminally insane psychiatric hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Hew Len, through the concept of Ho'oponopono, which at its core says, if I see it outside of myself, it's because an aspect of that exists within myself. That is the reduced, simplistic concept of Ho'oponopono.
So if you can't see it, it doesn't exist inside you, or I'm trying to see what I mean.
It's that once there's a recognition of it, once I know it exists, it too also exists within me. It doesn't always mean that we're going to act on it, though. There's nuance all around here.
So we don't
want to take this as black and white, because we could have people come in and say, just because I know that people are capable of murder doesn't mean I'm going to murder. And that's true.
So if you lived on a desert island with no one else and no news and nothing else, you wouldn't necessarily have the awareness of anybody else doing anything. And so you wouldn't have it inside you?
Well, you wouldn't have the potentiated aspect of it inside of you. But if we take the big concept of all of us, then it too lives, but it's not activated or potentiated or recognized. Yeah. Okay. So to kind of explain this, there's another myth and legend story. So back when the conquistadors were coming over to South America and the Inquisition and all that business was happening, the prophecy keepers, the shamans, the medicine men and women of the tribes who foresaw that this was coming were the ones who first saw the ships out in the ocean, the big tall ships with the big white sails, right?
Yeah.
And they brought other tribal members to the cliffside to look out at the ocean and say, there are the ships, and they couldn't see them because they had no concept that such a thing could ever exist. So only the prophecy keepers and the visionaries actually saw the ships. So goes the legend and lore stories.
Okay.
And what that means is that they had the ability to see it before it happened, because they were the prophecy keepers, the time to come. And they had the ability to see into the future. I'm summing things up with terminology that makes it easy for us to try to understand what we're talking about here today.
This is so mind-blowing. Okay,
so when they went and looked out into the ocean, they actually saw the ships. But the other people from the village couldn't see them, even though they were sitting there, because they had no concept that something like that could ever possibly exist.
Even so, it was there.
It was there, but they couldn't see it.
Couldn't see it. Okay.
Okay. So,
all right. So same kind of thing.
Same kind of thing. So here we go. So here's Hew Len, and the baseline concept of Ho'oponopono is, if I see it outside of myself, it also exists within myself. It's the same thing of as above, so below. Meaning,
same thing as projection. Are we this kind of projection? Okay,
that's
that kind. Okay.
We also talk about recognizing that we are part of the galaxy and the galaxy lives within us. We've heard that.
Yes,
we're made of stardust.
Well, yes, we have. We have those little sayings in people's offices.
So if we can just kind of keep rolling with that kind of broad concept, if I see it outside of myself, there's an aspect of that exists within myself.
Okay. All right.
So Hew Len gets these case files, and he is reading the case file. He never meets with the patients.
Yeah.
And as you were describing, it's a place that could not keep staff. Staff would get sick. They'd call in sick. They didn't want to come to work. His position had super high turnover. The psychologist didn't even want to stay. they would just quit because dealing with these people was so draining, so taxing,
Yeah,
so
sure.
heavy, so negative, so
Yeah.
fearful in some cases, right? They definitely had patients that were totally shackled and they wouldn't let them free. There was no outdoor exercise. They couldn't leave the building, and they couldn't go out and be in the yard for
goodness.
exercise and all of these things. So this goes on for a long while. This is a very sad state of affairs for everybody involved. So Hew starts what he does. So he gets the case files and he opens them up and he reads, so-and-so committed these crimes. And so the process goes. Ho'oponopono breaks down to, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. That's the components of Ho'oponopono. Now, what he did is he looked at it and he would say, I am sorry for what has been created here, what has been done or not done that has added to this situation. Please forgive me for all the ways in which the actions here have created this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the lessons learned from this situation on a really high collective soul level.
Mm-hmm.
And I love you. I love you not from I, Dannielle, love you, Kirsten, on a really personal level,
Mm-hmm.
even though I do. But
Oh, thank you.
it's the collective I love you. I love you. It's that pure, what I call LOVE frequency. It's that highest frequency that can be measured, the love frequency. So the I love you. So bringing love into the situation, accessing the super high frequency. So he goes through, and how Hew describes it is he talks about it as cleaning. He looks at it as cleaning the karma, cleaning the density, cleaning the heaviness, cleaning the trauma from the situation. We could also substitute the word healing in there.
Okay, can I
Yeah,
interrupt you?
please.
Because I could not find an actual date of when this happened. But I know that I saw things where was it in the mid 1900s, kind of 1950-ish?
It was later than that.
It's recent.
It's recent.
Yeah. So you guys, this is recent. I could not find anything that had the actual dates, which also makes me suspect. But
no, there's a book called
okay.
Zero Limits.
Yes.
That
Okay.
was written, and it was written all about this study. And
we're looking at the
we're
phone.
looking at the phone.
Trying.
We're going as fast as space will let us travel.
Because I have to tell you, when I can't find an actual date very easily, and I didn't read the book Zero Limits. That's and he was a part of writing that book, right?
He was.
Yes.
So an author named Joe Vitale wrote
Mhm.
the book, and Hew Len was absolutely
part of it.
part of that whole thing. So he was in there. Okay, so I'm not finding it really fast, but not
It's
that long ago.
like 70s, 80s. Okay.
Yeah.
70s, 80s. All right. So setting that in because I was like, is this back in the it's
No,
now.
it's
It was now with
Yeah.
science, with people,
Yeah.
with the ability to know that he was actually in this building.
Yeah.
I mean, like it
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
like he, it's
Some guy
Yeah.
who's been dead for 200 years that we
right.
can't even prove existed. No,
Right.
Hew Len exists. And so did this hospital.
Mhm.
And so he went through, and over time, what they saw happen is every day he would go into his office, and every day he'd go through the case files, and every day he would heal that aspect within him that recognizes this aspect exists outside, that these actions took place. And what they found is that the patients stopped being so violent, that the staff stopped calling in sick all the time or getting sick,
Mhm.
that somebody came in and decided they wanted to paint the place. Because it was, you can imagine, like a place that holds that kind of density was also looked run down.
Mhm.
They wanted to paint the place. They found that certain patients had such an improvement that they were able to start being unshackled and go outside and play tennis. and they repaired the tennis courts, and people started to come off medication, and there were less violent attacks on staff. And over the course of time, things began to improve. The energy shifted. The patients healed. And as you reported, eventually the patients healed enough that they were able to come out of that wing, if you will, that criminally insane wing where they were condemned. It was set up that there's no hope for these people. They are so bad off that there is no rehabilitation. It's just not going to happen. So that's that.
I tell you, this is just, it's so weird to me. Can you imagine a doctor going into an office and saying, yeah, I'm working today. I swear, staff, I'm working. And he never comes out of his office. He's sitting there looking at files. And you're like, I mean, I remember one time I was reading a story. It was about if you ever are caught napping at your desk at work, things that you could say. And I remember, like if you ever caught napping, if anybody caught you, you'd wake up, or you would wake up, but appear to be saying, and in Jesus' name we pray, amen. And that's kind of what I'm picturing here is he's like just sitting in his office with his folders open and people, the fact that they allowed him to do this is just amazing and open-minded. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe he had some previous experience that they also, since he'd been into this study,
right.
Maybe he came, he kind of came to them and said, can I try this? I wonder if there was that. Do you know?
I cannot remember if that was part of it. What I think in my recollection, because it's been a while since I've read this book, is that the position was hard to fill. They couldn't find anybody to take it. And somehow somebody knew of Hew, yes, and they asked him to take it.
Okay.
And I believe that's how he came into it. I could be wrong, so we cannot take that as fact.
Okay. I just was curious if he interjected. Because, I just couldn't imagine people thinking, that's so far, especially in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whenever he was doing this, it's so far from the reality of what normal people were doing in terms of doctors at hospitals, that he definitely came with some latitude to be able to come in and do this. And then I also wonder, like, was Hawaii, and I don't have any data on this, but was Hawaii worried that they were going to suddenly have all these criminals that were currently healed walking around? I'm just kind of like, wow, this is such a stunning piece, and then how he basically healed them back. He healed them back in time.
Yeah, it was in the 1980s.
1980s. Okay. 1980s. And
so he healed, what he was healing was the illness, if you will. Because it was a hospital for the criminally insane, they were deemed psychologically ill, right? In our medical terminology. And so he was working with the illness, and he was healing their psychological disorder, if you will.
So he was going back in time to fix this, right? Or
he was healing he was healing their disorder. He wasn't healing what they did. He wasn't going back in time necessarily and healing.
Okay.
This happened. This person committed this act. And so now I'm going back in time to heal this crime that was committed.
Okay.
He was actually taking the person in their current state of where they were in their psychological insanity and illness and saying this person has been diagnosed as a sociopathic, blah, 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 perhaps, and working with that. So he was working with the current situation and bringing healing to that person. Now we could go look at it and say, retroactively speaking, this person was probably ill their whole lives.
Right.
And so now they are healed.
So in essence, then your past doesn't determine, I mean, that was from another one of our podcasts.
Right.
Your past doesn't determine your future. I mean, this is in fact absolute proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
If it is what it is, and I'm just, it is a as a person. I mean, what can I use this for, Dannielle? Like, this guy goes in, he does this whole healing,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like this is something that has been a part of their civilization for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Their culture.
Their culture.
Yeah.
So how could someone that's not a doctor incorporate this into their lives and use it? Because my gosh, if it's this powerful, I think I should be, brushing my teeth, doing it, sipping. I mean, like any free moment, I should be thinking this.
Right. So what we're talking about, we're obviously highlighting an extreme example of Ho'oponopono. Okay. So we need to recognize that on the spectrum, we're like way over here, like, oh my God, this guy healed an entire psychiatric ward in a Hawaii state hospital, right? Yeah. Okay. But he is a psychologist, and that is the position that he took. And this is how he looked at it, because years prior, nobody made a dent with these people. No effective change happened. This is what makes it so remarkable, because there was doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor who sat in the position in this state hospital as the doctor who was supposed to help these patients with their illness. Right. And nothing happened. It deteriorated. It got worse. People were afraid to go to work. Right. There was just this complete demise of the quality of life existence in this place. So then Hew comes along and he brings this modality, and all of a sudden we see massive improvement, quality of life changes, patients get better, and wing closes. Wow. So this is an extreme. Now, again, back to the concept that Ho'oponopono is to make right or bring order to the chaos. It says that, when this situation presents itself and shows up in a person's life, this is a way in which we can work with it. Okay. So those stories that people will tell you a story, and it's so hard to intake the information because it's just like, oh my gosh, what are you even saying to me? That's horrible. I can't imagine going through something like that.
So it's a horrible story. That
doesn't always have to be, but these are the classic highlighted examples. So when that information comes in, we can begin to bring prayer to it. Ho'oponopono we could look at as a prayer. Okay. We can bring prayer to it and say, that's a lot going on in there. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And when we look at that, when we look at what those words are, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you, it's saying, I'm bringing a different frequency and I'm offering up healing for this situation or event or person or thing that is happening. Okay. It's a way for us to sit with something that's intense and be able to bring prayer to it.
And we don't have to find a specific solution or anything. All we're doing is saying those four statements. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, whichever, it doesn't matter?
No, it really doesn't matter which order it goes in. Now, there are, land of YouTube, there are a lot of people who have studied in this particular kind of healing modality. And we can sum it up as Ho'oponopono. If you went to YouTube and you typed in Ho'oponopono, then all kinds of things would show up. Now, of course, there are different people who are doing it in many different kinds of ways, and there's, you can bring specifics to it. You can say, please forgive me for what I have done or not done that has contributed to this situation.
Okay, so you can add to it.
You can add to it. Now, you can just say it, but it's more than just rolling through it as like rote memorization. You actually want to bring a feeling to it.
Okay.
You want to bring a feeling to it, because if something gets brought to you, or if you're part of a situation, you're in it now. Whatever that means, quote unquote, you're in it. You're part of it. You have just become privy to the information. You can't unknow what you now know. Right. So what you can do when it seems like there's nothing that can be done is to bring prayer to it. This is a prayer.
So what you're saying is, rather than talking about an ex-husband in a certain light, and thinking there's nothing I can do to help him or do anything, I could do this and not do it as a rote exercise, but really use the words and please forgive me and these kinds of things, because I'm a part of this, obviously.
Yes.
And even though it appears to me he's living his own life, making his own choices, doing what he wants to do, I am still, because I'm aware of what's going on, I'm still a part of this.
Yeah.
And him.
Because what we see outside of ourselves
also
lives within us.
Okay.
So we could take this and bring deep healing to it. Let's use something less intense. Let's use that you find yourself in a situation where somebody lied about something and you know they're lying. Okay. And it's really upsetting and it can bring us into judgment, right? How can that person just be blatantly lying like that? I don't get it. What is going on? They're lying. And so we could, how we would apply Ho'oponopono to that situation is to forgive the situation so that we don't get all twisted up about it.
Okay.
Right? Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. We can also look at it and say, where do I also have the capability of lying? Where have I done this? Where do I do it?
So using it as a tool to shine light on yourself.
Light as a mirror. Right?
I see. Yeah.
And then we can bring forgiveness to the lying aspect of it. And we can work with, where do I also do this?
Interesting. And this doesn't have to be done. I mean, us non-confrontational people. It's like this singing voice that you're saying it to me in, because I don't like confrontation. And so it would be so fun to just be able to do this all alone in my bedroom and not have to worry about anybody else and just...
So I have an example of, I use this.
Okay.
Right? So I could give you a few examples, but one example pops to mind. I was with a friend of mine. We were hanging out at a public pool one day, and it was quiet, and we were at the adult pool, not the kid pool, and we were just having our little chat and kind of in and out of conversation where you then kind of drift into just being quiet and laying in the sun, right, relaxing. And there was a woman who came, and she sat at a picnic table like 2 chairs over, and she proceeded to get online and listen to some kind of conference call or
without earphones.
Without earphones. Put her phone on speaker. And it was loud, and she was part of it. So it was interactive. So then she would, interface with the conference call and whatever. And we kind of, her and I looked at each other like, oh, okay, not so relaxing, but interesting. And she was getting pretty upset about it. She was like, I can't believe she's doing this. I wish she would just leave. Who does this? And she was really it was really bugging her. And I said to her, well, maybe we should just do Ho'oponopono and let the whole situation just begin to diffuse itself instead of dropping into judgment and getting angry about it, because that's not going to shift the energetics of the scenario that's going on. So what if we just do Ho'oponopono? So, she did it for herself and I did it for myself. And it was really, in this example, it was, please forgive me for being upset about what is happening and what I have or have not done to contribute to this situation, and please forgive the situation. I'm sorry for the ways in which I'm getting upset and contributing to the situation. And I'm sorry for what is happening in the space. So you kind of keep it generic, because I don't know what this lady has going on with why she's doing the conference call at the pool.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to practice non-judgment. I love you. I love you. Again, bringing in that pure love frequency. Let me sprinkle this situation with love instead of complete frustration and judgment, right?
Okay.
And so we do this. I'm not even kidding, Kirsten. About 10 minutes later, the woman lowers the volume on her phone, pulls her headphones out, plugs in, and the whole situation ends up going quiet.
Oh my goodness. How interesting. She had these tools. She could have done it, but whatever.
And so right. This is one of those situations where, like,
it
now
happened.
Can I tell you that the reason she pulled her headphones out is because we were doing Ho'oponopono? No, I can't say that.
No.
But I can say that it went on long enough that it didn't appear that she was going to pull her headphones out.
No, right.
Right? And then all of a sudden she does. So, then there was a situation I had where I had something going on in my life where it was challenging, and it was between me and another person, and it was bringing up some personal stuff for both of us, and it became a challenging situation between the two of us where difficult conversations were happening, and I found myself carrying this around and stewing on it. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just like, I got to be able to put this down. I can't keep carrying this. This is not helpful, even though we've been having the discussions to try to resolve it. And I just started to work with the Ho'oponopono prayer, and things began to resolve themselves without us having to go back and have yet another difficult conversation and yet another difficult conversation. And they just began to resolve themselves to the point where it has completely resolved itself, and the space between us feels really good. And the things that we were trying to sort and figure out have taken care of themselves on their own by themselves.
So there you go. So, okay, either way, it's working for you.
Yeah.
I have enough going on in my life right now that I'm going to be Ho'oponoponoing as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break
and
come back with some wine that we compare to this, and then also some final thoughts about this. So thanks, Dannielle. Stay tuned, you guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Wines and Wonders with Kirsten Fox. True stories with a side of wine.
Have you ever had a friend call you in tears as she explains what she's going through, and you get off the phone and you feel like you just have to do something? Well, there is a company called Uplift Gift that is here for all of us to use when we get those kinds of calls. They have all sorts of different comforting items that they package up in beautiful wrapping and send to your friend, along with a handwritten card from you in the box, so that she feels your love from far away. Uplift Gift, when words aren't enough.
Thanks for staying tuned to Wines and Wonders. Now, what wine will Kirsten choose for your table tonight? Here she is.
Welcome back to Wines and Wonders. So we're going to get to the wine portion of this discussion today, and then we're going to wrap it up and see if Dannielle has some final thoughts as well. So I have chosen a wine called The Prisoner.
Ooh, nice.
To go with this conversation.
Right.
I hope some of you are familiar with The Prisoner. It is a red blend out of Napa Valley. It's the Prisoner Wine Company. I just love these guys. But The Prisoner is actually, it varies by year as to what is in the blend. But primarily, we're looking at Zinfandel as kind of a base. And then they'll add Cab, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Syrah, regular Syrah, and even a grape called Charbonneau. And they will make this blend, and it is really like a grouping of black fruits. I mean, it is just, these are dark, amazing fruits together. It's not like a lightly flavored cranberry kind of blend where it might be cranberry pomegranate. This is down at the squished blackberries and maybe a little prune and all those kinds of like really ripe, rich black fruits. And you also get some of the clove and spicy kind of things that come out of Zinfandel, which is really nice. So, I mean, we're looking, it's about a $50 bottle. So it's not something that you're going to spend a lot of, it's something you're going to have to spend, really get your pocketbook out. But for a fun, great night, the Prisoner is an amazing wine to bring out and enjoy. And I always am a big fan of red blends because they go with almost every food. But in this case, I would tell you this red blend is so rich and ripe. You'd want to have some really strongly flavored foods to go with it, whether it's lamb or it's some kind of a roast, something that's got some hardiness, which will work as we get into fall here. Mm-hmm. So it's a special bottle at $50, but the Prisoner from the Prisoner Wine Company in Napa would be is the pairing today for our discussion about Dr. Hew Len releasing a lot of criminals into Hawaii.
And don't they tell the story of, don't they put a prisoner on their bottle and tell the story? Is that something different?
Different. That's a different line. And it came to me when you just said that, but I can't remember what the line is. You know what? We're going to just take a little quick moment here and let me research. Okay, well, we had time to go to our devices to find it. It's 19 Crimes.
Oh, that's what it is.
Is the company that does that. And those are so fun. Yeah. That's another one we can do another time. Those are fun because you guys, when you download their app and you put your phone over the front of the label, the guy actually comes to life through your phone and starts talking to you about his crime. So it's really fun.
Wow, I didn't know that part of it.
Oh, you didn't?
That is what I'm talking about, but I didn't realize that they had that extra added feature. I thought it was just their face on the bottle and then their crime story.
Oh, the crime story on the back. No, there's an app. Oh. And it brings the guy, they've got an actor who sits there that looks exactly like the guy in the label. And it's like, I'm the guy that, I was a blacksmith and I robbed this bank or whatever. Oh yeah, it's really cute. Wow. And it's a guy talking on your phone. It's really fun.
Well, we could all practice Ho'oponopono.
Oh, with
now
the
we
live,
could do healing
live criminals
outside of time. Another podcast, another story.
Oh my goodness, we could see if we could help those 19 criminals.
We could.
Okay, well, so we've got the Prisoner wine that's going with our talk today about this whole Ho'oponopono concept that Dr. Hew Len applied to this wing, really, and how we really work outside of
linear time.
Yeah. And it's just, this kind of an example is just mind-blowing. Did you think of anything as I was talking about wine or anything that you'd want to say to wrap up the conversation?
There's a lot of information on this particular prayer/healing modality, Ho'oponopono. And the book Zero Limits by Joe Vitale gets into a much deeper dive of what we've been talking about. But it is simple enough to apply just through listening to what we've shared. And again, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. It can go in a different order. You can add a personal aspect to it. The key is that you allow yourself to feel what you're saying. That's the key. That's the secret ingredient that changes it from just saying something into actually becoming a healing modality.
So any of us, this is the message is any of us can become a healer.
Yeah.
Through this.
Yeah. Through this, to bring healing to a situation, bring healing to something that is happening. Allow the situation to shift and change by bringing a different energy or frequency to that scenario through Ho'oponopono. Again, to bring into order, to make right, to correct the situation. That's what it translates to. So any and all of us can apply this prayer to something that is happening and going on. Yep.
I have hope for the country again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Thank you so much again for being here. And
You're
thanks,
welcome.
you guys, for tuning in. We love having you guys listen. We love your feedback. And anytime you are in a situation that you need to bring back to rightness, you can try this Ho'oponopono. Thanks, Dannielle.
Thank you.
We look forward to sharing a new story and wine with you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Wines and Wonders.